Thanks for that, Dave. Well, I'm now joined here in studio by Fintan O'Toole, from Bangor in Wales, by Guto Bebb, a Tory MP, former Minister for Defence Procurement, who resigned in July over what you regarded, Guto, as concessions Theresa made to Brexiteers. And also I'm joined by Sammy Wilson, DUP MP from his office in Larne, and Liam Halligan, economist and Telegraph columnist, who wrote a book on Brexit called Clean Brexit. Let me start with you, Liam. I mean, Clean Brexit. You said all along it would be clean, it would be straightforward, it would be simple. It's been anything but that. So in a sense, your view has been both incorrect and untrue.
Well, all I can do is write the book. You know, I'm just a guy with a laptop. I'm not sitting in the House of Commons. And, you know, to paraphrase Oscar Wilde, to lose one Brexit secretary might be misfortunate, but to lose two is carelessness. I agree with the comments I previously heard. I do think the Prime Minister has battled and she put up a good show in the House of Commons, 2.5 hours of pretty punishing questioning, and she's shown a lot of resilience. But in the end, the way she's been negotiating this Brexit, I think, has been completely irrational. She's given many speeches to the world, to people here in the UK hearing them, the diplomats all over the place, and yet she's been doing a completely different negotiation in secret, which has resulted in the Chequers deal, which was disastrous, and this deal with the European Union, which is even more disastrous in the sense that it is only a sort of exercise in fiction. It's never going to get through the House of Commons, and I say that with a huge amount of regret. The reason I wrote Clean Brexit with a guy called Jerry Lyons, another person of mixed Anglo-Irish heritage like me, is that we felt the simplest way to get a smooth Brexit that would help the UK and the other EU 27 countries, particularly the Republic of Ireland, which is, I totally understand, has got a lot on the line here and the most to lose, would be if we simply left the single market and the customs union. I'm afraid to say, as a result of this so-called deal, and we really should stop calling it a deal. It isn't a deal because it's almost certain it's not going to fly. As a result of this document that's been published, and you've seen the reaction in the House of Commons, and the questioning in the previous part of the show really pointed towards what I'm about to say, the likelihood of no deal is now the most likely outcome, I'm afraid. And I say with regret, the country that will suffer most under no deal, and I don't want this to happen, is, apart from the UK, the Republic of Ireland. 4/5 of the Republic's exports use Britain as a land bridge. That's the truth. And I'm afraid that I do think this is entirely the fault of British politicians that we're in such a mess. But I do think, with all respect, that the Taoiseach has overplayed his hand now, and his ultra-maximalist, legalistic approach to the Irish border, which can be solved with existing technology, has now meant that the most likely outcome, unfortunately, is no deal, and that is not in the interests of the economy of the Republic of Ireland. OK,
let me bring in Fintan O'Toole there. Listening to Liam there, maximalist, basically the Taoiseach made the situation worse.
Well, let's just take two things that Liam said first. Liam said that there was negotiations going on in secret. They were not. What's happened this week, the document was published this week, is essentially the document that was published and agreed last December 2017. The key parts of it around the backstop, around the Irish border, and the implications of that for Northern Ireland having to stay within the customs union, and then because the DUP got the extra bit of that, which was that they couldn't have any barriers between Northern Ireland and the rest of the UK. Essentially, I wrote this in 2017, that it was obvious from this that the UK was going to have to stay in the customs union and that Northern Ireland was going to stay in the customs union and large parts of the single market. So this was not secret. Secondly, this means that the Brexiteers had almost an entire year to come up with what Liam has been talking about, this magical technological solution that would mean that this didn't have to happen. Last March, the House of Commons Northern Ireland Committee, on which the DUP, for example, is fully represented, they heard all the evidence, they heard everybody about the technology, they conducted really serious hearings, they produced a report, and it said, there is no evidence of this anywhere in the world. This is aspirational technology. And they said, would the Brexiteers and the government please urgently come up with the proposals they were actually making? What did they do? Nothing. They did nothing. So I think we have to go back and say that this is really something which has been driven by people who have been completely irresponsible. They haven't taken seriously the alternatives that they've put forward about this clean break Brexit, about all this wonderful technology. It's all been for show. And what we've now seen is what Brexit actually means. The reality of it is what this document is. And they don't like it. And I don't blame them for not liking it. It's terrible.
Liam Halligan, irresponsible, it's all for show. And then I'll bring in my other guests.
OK, well, in April 2017, Niall Cody, and I'm sure you all know who Niall Cody is, said it was Enda Kenny was Taoiseach, I grant you that, rather than Leo Varadkar, said that there's no need for any additional infrastructure on the Irish border. And his equivalent here in the UK, John Thompson, who runs HMRC, said exactly the same thing. And I read the report that Fintan is referring to, but I was also watching the Northern Ireland Select Committee, Fintan, earlier this week, when the Northern Ireland Select Committee heard from a guy called Lars Coulson, who's probably the foremost customs expert anywhere in the world. He was the guy that was responsible for the Swedish-Norwegian border, and now he's an international consultant. And with only 3 people in the audience, only 3 people, while the world's press was camped outside Westminster hearing about all this Brexit meltdown, Lars Coulson told the Northern Ireland Select Committee that we can solve these Irish border issues, we can have a free trade agreement between the UK and the EU, which of course includes the Republic of Ireland, using existing technology.
So it's never been done anywhere in the world. You can't point to a single example of it anywhere in the world.
No one is saying
now.
No, if you let me finish. If you let me finish.
There was plenty of time to actually.
No one is saying that there aren't sensitivities on this border. I totally accept that and understand that as much as anyone watching this show. But I would say that the technological problems that are on this border have been blown up out of all proportion in order to keep the United Kingdom in the
Liam,
customs
brief
union.
response, and then I'm going to bring in Guido.
Because in
Liam,
the customs
let
union,
Fintan come back
the
and then
United Kingdom pays billions of pounds a year to Brussels.
Liam. Let's not get bogged down on the technology. There is no example of it anywhere in the world. 2 House of Commons committees have said this. You know, so it's not just the Irish saying this. This is the British saying it.
Watch the evidence.
The reality here. The reality here. There's a bigger reality, which is that Brexit has been built on fantasy. It's been built on mendacity. It's been built on statements that have been proven to be completely ludicrous. This was going to be the easiest trade deal ever done, according to David Davis. Liam Fox said there would be multiple international trade deals already in place before March 2019. You can go on and on about, well, we could take the whole programme citing things that are just complete nonsense. And when you strip away the nonsense, what you get is a simple fact. And the simple fact is that the United Kingdom is a European country. Geography is destiny. It does most of its trade either with or through the European Union. And if you want to maintain that trade, you have to maintain something like what you've got. The best outcome is the status quo. If you don't want the status quo, you're going to get something worse than the status quo. And that's what they've ended up with.
Sammy Wilson, are you guilty of mendacity as a Brexiteer?
No, and I can tell you, listening to what has been said on your show tonight, first of all, the kind of self-congratulatory attitude that there has been from the Minister doesn't warrant that kind of thing if you look at the experience. I mean, we're in this, we're going to finish up with a no deal. I'm fairly sure that we'll finish up with a no deal. And as Liam Halligan has pointed out, the Irish economy will suffer very badly as a result of that. And one of the chief people responsible for that is your own Taoiseach. From the day one, he has been determined, along with the EU, to find a way of undermining the vote of the people of the United Kingdom. He has put every obstacle in the way and he has poisoned the debate. I mean, I listened to him when he talked about stopping planes flying over the Irish Republic, turning off the lights in Northern Ireland, a Berlin Wall along the border, and then this contrived problem of trade across the border.
You're blaming everybody else. This is what we've had all the time. It's always been somebody else's fault. And the people who've put forward Brexit refuse to take responsibility for where you've ended up. Would you just take responsibility for where you are?
I have listened to Fintan, I have listened to the nonsense that you have spoken in this programme. And let me just, so stop you interrupting me and don't be ignorant, okay? Let's just have a sensible debate on this. You've talked about the problems along the border. Trade occurs along the border at present. Technology along the border at present ensures that taxes are collected on a daily basis. The trading standards ensure that there's compliance with regulations, not just with trade from other EU countries, but with trade from third countries. You bring in billions of pounds worth of trade from third countries, and you don't need technology to check it all out
because you're in a single market.
There's arrangements in place. There's arrangements. Okay, there's arrangements in place already from third countries.
Okay.
And you know the outcome of all of this is that we now have a deal, which the British government was partly responsible for it because it caved into the nonsense which came from the EU and from your own government.
Everybody
we now have a deal which will not go through the House of Commons, which will not go through the House of Commons, and which at the end of the day your economy will suffer for. And I hope that the people who suffer in your country understand that this is a result of your Taoiseach overplaying his Republican
I'm going to bring in Guito back. Guito, you're in the middle here of three Irish people having a very heated discussion. You're in Wales. You left Theresa May's, obviously, government because you were very upset about the concessions you felt she was giving to Brexiteers. And yet today, those Brexiteers are very against this deal. So how did that happen?
It's been a long process for all of us, and it has been a difficult 2.5 years. I think the reality is that the Brexiteers have overplayed their hand. I think they've taken a very narrow victory in the Brexit referendum as a vote in favour of having a very extreme form of Brexit. And now, obviously, when their expectations have not been met, they're very, very annoyed. But the reality of the situation is that we haven't lost 2 Brexit ministers, we've lost 4. We've lost 4 Brexit ministers, and I would actually argue that those 4 have actually not put forward any constructive plan in opposition to what the Prime Minister has put forward. But I also accept fully that this deal is not an ideal deal in any way, shape or form. I will find it very difficult to support this deal because I think it is significantly worse for the economy of the area that I represent, which is North Wales, which is one of the poorest parts of the United Kingdom. This is significantly worse for North Wales, significantly worse for manufacturing business in North Wales, very bad for agriculture in North Wales, and it's significantly worse than the current deal that we have. And I do think that the problem that the Prime Minister has had, and this is why I have no truck whatsoever with the idea of changing the Prime Minister, no Prime Minister could have actually delivered what was promised in the referendum, because what was actually promised in the referendum was that we would carry on enjoying all the benefits of European Union membership without being a member of the European Union. And that was actually never going to happen. And actually what we've seen over the last 2.5 years is that promise, which was never going to be delivered, it's been shown to be a false one. And that's why we are where we are today.
Guito, before I go back to Liam, on the basis of what you know from your colleagues, your other MPs, do you think they will get the 48 names necessary to table a vote of no confidence in her?
Well, I'll be perfectly honest. When I heard that the Prime Minister was calling a press conference for 5 o'clock this afternoon, I assumed that would be because the 48 names had been reached. I was very surprised that was not the case, and I sincerely hope that does not happen. Because ultimately, I don't think that changing the Prime Minister at this point in time is nothing other than a political luxury that we can ill afford. I think the Prime Minister has brought this deal to the table. There's no time, in my view, to go back for a renegotiation. I generally do believe that the no-deal option is something that we cannot accept, and I'm increasingly of the view that other parties in Parliament will ensure that that is not the end result that we suffer if this Prime Minister's deal is rejected.
Liam Halligan, you were nodding there, talking about the vote of no confidence in Theresa May.
No, I agree. When I heard about the 5 o'clock press conference, after, as I said, a pretty feisty and impressive display at the dispatch box of the House of Commons earlier in the afternoon, I thought it was because the letters had got to a level where they were going to trigger a vote of no confidence, and I was surprised. I think if there is a vote of no confidence, she may actually hang on, and under the arcane rules, that means there can't be another vote of no confidence in her for a year, so it could kind of strengthen her. On the other hand, even if the Brexiteers don't get to the level that they need to remove her, a show of force, if they have 80 or 90 votes, means it's then arithmetically impossible for her to get this deal through the House of Commons. But I go back to my argument before.
This is something we really have to remember.
There is another option here.
Liam, we just have to remember we've been threatened a lot with no deal and with the consequences and a certain kind of rubbing of hands with glee as to how horrible this will be for us all. There is no parliamentary majority for no
I said
deal.
with regret. I was very careful to say with regret.
I'm sorry.
It's why I've been warning the British establishment
I didn't
about
mean
this
you. I meant
for
Sammy.
2.5 years.
But the fact is that there is no parliamentary majority for no deal. What we've got at the moment is a strange situation. There is no parliamentary majority for the only deal which is on offer, and there is no parliamentary majority for no deal. And the only way that this is going to be resolved is actually by going back to the people. Because it's very clear, we're already seeing a big swing in public opinion where people are saying, if that's what it looks like, why would any sensible, sane country put itself in a situation of accepting a relationship with Europe which is second class when it is already a first class member? Go back and ask the people again.
Sammy, on that, no, Liam, I have to let Sammy Wilson in. Sorry, Liam. Sammy, on that, why not go back to the people, Sammy? We've done it a few times here. Go back to the people.
Well, of course, that's a typical ploy from the EU and EU supporters. The Irish may have had to go back to the people twice to get the right result to suit the EU. We have already had a decision made in the United Kingdom. We're leaving the EU. The date is set for the 29th of March. If this deal does not go through the House of Commons, then we leave without a deal. I regret that. I believe that a deal was perfectly possible. It was reasonable. There were reasonable solutions put forward time and time again by the UK government. Time and time again they were slapped down, sometimes within half an hour, by the government of the Irish Republic without any due consideration, and that's why we're in the situation we are. And you know, there will not be support in the House of Commons to go back to once again do the work which has already been done in the referendum. We are not going to fall for the EU ploy of going back till we get the right answer.
Guido Bap, hopefully we'll all sort this out one day soon. Thank you all very much for joining us, David.